topic for today, hatching out and brooding chicks. Even when I was a little girl living in the city, seeing buds on the trees and grass coming up and the first signs of tulips always got me excited. And I have to tell you, living on a little farm, living on our homestead, nothing's changed. If anything, it's ramped it up. So today I'm going to talk to you about hatching out chicks, how to incubate them, and also how to keep them in a brooder afterwards. So, before we can incubate eggs, there's two things we need to address. One, hatching eggs. Two, an incubator. Seems self-explanatory, but let's talk about it a little bit more. Where are you getting your hatching eggs from? Do you currently have a rooster and some hens? Or are you buying them from a local farmer? Is this farmer reputable? Do they have a good reputation? So you're going to want to get a hold of some good hatching eggs. Now keep in mind, not all hatches are 100%. There are some that can be, but the majority of them are not. So when you're planning the number of chicks that you want to hatch out, you're going to want to consider that. A second thing you're going to want to consider is about, you have a 50% chance of those chicks being roosters. So you've got to factor that in when you're counting out how many eggs you're going to want. So you've got a source for great hatching eggs, whether it be from your homestead or from a reputable homesteader or farmer. What you now need is an incubator. We use the Hovabator. I put the link in the description below. I met someone who has been breeding out and hatching out chicks for a very long time, and this is what they recommended. And I have to tell you, this is our 4th year hatching out. Highly recommended. It's a very good incubator. I've had great success rates with it. Not a problem at all. This particular incubator comes with a thermometer and a humidity reader all in one, and that's a big plus. And it also comes with an egg turner. Now, I know some of you may be using a lesser valued one, maybe like a $30 or $40 incubator, which is fine. You just have to keep in mind you're going to have to probably be doing a lot of the turning, and you're going to have to look for a thermometer that keeps track of that. The reason I love the Hovabator is I just put the eggs in, and it's pretty much just check on them from time to time for the humidity. And then in 21 days, I've got chicks. So let's talk about how that's set up. You've got your unwashed eggs that you've collected from your farm, or you've got your source of eggs from a local farmer or hatchery. Now what you're going to do is, before you put the eggs in the incubator, for the Hovabator at least, I'm not sure about how some other ones are, but I'm sure all of them have some kind of source that they put water in to keep the humidity level. So you're going to pour that in first before you put the eggs in. Once you do that, you're going to go ahead and put the eggs into the incubator with the thermometer, the digital thermometer, and whatever keeps track of the humidity. Those should be inside. Then you close it and you let it do its thing. So then your next question is probably going to be, what should the temperature be and what should the humidity be? Typically, we keep ours at 100 degrees. I check it every day. And there should be a way on your incubator that you can regulate the temperature. The humidity should be between 55 and 65. I know that some places they will change it depending on what part of the incubation process is. I've found that typically if I just keep it close to 60 to 65 the entire time until they hatch, I have a pretty good success rate with that. But some people choose to make the humidity a little bit higher, say 70%, when it comes hatching time. The reason they do this is, if you've ever had an egg, you know that there's the shell and there's the membrane inside. Well, that membrane, when the chick gets that close to the end, no longer has fluid in it. It just has the baby chick. If the humidity is not high enough, it can actually shrink, what they call shrink wrap the baby, and you don't want that to happen. So humidity is an important part of hatching. you've got them in the incubator, and you're going to mark one side of each egg with an X. This is if you're manually moving them every day, because that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to flip them every day, or at least rotate them. And this just helps everything to continue to develop normally within the egg, because a mama hen would do that. She would get on the nest, she'll move them around with her beak from time to time. So you're going to have to be that mama hen and turn those eggs every day. Now, if you have an automatic egg turner, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about putting an X on each side of the egg. If you put the X, it tells you, okay, side with no X's today, side with X's tomorrow. At day 18 comes what they call lockdown. And this is when you stop turning the eggs. You're going to make sure the humidity is high enough, like I said, between 60 to 70. Try to keep it between 65 and 70. This is going to be optimal conditions for your eggs to hatch out. About day 21, it can either be early in day 21, but towards the end of day 21, but it's amazing to me that it's always on day 21 from the time that they were put in the incubator. You're going to want to keep an eye out, because you're going to see little, what they call pips. You might even start hearing peeping before you see a pip, which is exciting time. It's an exciting time. You're going to see a little hole in your egg. Keep an eye on that. Within the next few hours, you're going to see it turn into what's called a zip. And that's when the chick starts dotting a line, starts cracking a line on the shell. This always occurs at the fat end of the egg. If it doesn't, then something's really not okay with the chick, meaning the development, he happened upside down. I guess you would call it a breech birth for a chick. They may need you to help, but that's a conversation for another video. So first the pip, then the zip. Keep paying attention, because sometimes it's within a half an hour you're going to see that chick come out. At day 18 comes what they call lockdown. And this is when you stop turning the eggs. You're going to make sure the humidity is high enough, like I said, between 60 to 70. Try to keep it between 65 and 70. This is going to be optimal conditions for your eggs to hatch out. About day 21, it can either be early in day 21, but towards the end of day 21, but it's amazing to me that it's always on day 21 from the time that they were put in the incubator. You're going to want to keep an eye out, because you're going to see little, what they call pips. You might even start hearing peeping before you see a pip, which is exciting time. It's an exciting time. You're going to see a little hole in your egg. Keep an eye on that. Within the next few hours, you're going to see it turn into what's called a zip. And that's when the chick starts dotting a line, starts cracking a line on the shell. This always occurs at the fat end of the egg. If it doesn't, then something's really not okay with the chick, meaning the development, he happened upside down. I guess you would call it a breech birth for a chick. They may need you to help, but that's a conversation for another video. So first the pip, then the zip. Keep paying attention, because sometimes it's within a half an hour you're going to see that chick come out. What's absolutely amazing is once that they're out, they'll start peeping and chirping and chirping and peeping as they dry off. Well, initially they kind of flop around and they're wet. They've got to dry out. But once they start drying out, they pop around and they start peeping and encouraging the other ones that are still in the eggs to come on out. So that the more that are out, the more they encourage the others. And usually within 12 hours, everything that you have in the incubator has now been hatched. Now, all of your chicks have hatched out. They're all dried off. They're all ready to go out to the brooder. What do you do next? Set up their brooder. It doesn't matter what you have for a brooder, you're going to use some pine shaving flakes. Once that's done, we're going to set up their water. I put it on top of a brick because they will kick the wood chips into it. Use the chick waterer and not a full-size waterer. After that, we're going to set up their food. You can use a bowl. They tend to kick it out and make a mess of it, so we use a specially designed chick feeder. It's up to you to decide whether you want medicated or unmedicated feed. You'll have to do the research on that. And lastly, the heat lamp. Now I started the heat lamp about 18 inches above, and later on in the video you'll see where we've lowered it. Okay, so in your brooder, a lot of people will put a thermometer. We did that the first year and I think maybe the second year. And then after that, I started learning my chicks. And what do I mean by that? You can watch your chicks and regulate where you put the heat lamp by the way they behave. In the next video, you're going to see them laying comfortably on the perimeter of where the heat lamp shines down. They're comfortable. They're not all huddled in a ball. They're not all peeping. Cold chicks will peep. And these chicks did not. They were very comfortable where they were. So at the beginning, you're going to want to keep the heat lamp low. If you want to use a thermometer at the beginning so you know what that looks like, what they act like. But generally speaking, what I would say, if you've put a heat lamp on your chicks, they are not peeping and they're walking around acting fine like you see in the video, they're okay. You don't need to regulate their temperature. Now, if you have a much smaller area, I understand that our brooder is a lot bigger. But you might want to do is, I've actually at times had a brooder in a laundry basket in my kitchen and with a covering on top and then the heat lamp shining through it. A cover meaning like a like fencing. And so that would keep the chicks in and the heat could still get through and nothing else like a cat or anything could get in there. So we've done that and I've tilted it so that it partially is in the basket and partially out of the basket, the heat lamp where it shines down. This will give your chicks enough room to cuddle up under the heat lamp if they need to, but to move off away from it if they have to. You're going to keep your chicks in the brooder till they're fully feathered out. So even if you start in a laundry basket, you are probably going to need a bigger brooder. I mean, that even depends on how many chicks you have. But even with 6 chicks, look at her. She just is curious. She won't even bother them. So even with 6 chicks, it's going to get a little crowded in there. So you're going to want to go ahead and move them to a bigger brooder area. So your brooder should be big enough for them to move around comfortably. And you're going to keep them in there until they're fully feathered out. Now, when I first started this, I had a difficult time understanding what that meant, what that looked like. And I don't know, that might be you, or maybe you completely get it. But for me, fully feathered out means the majority of their body, the majority of it, doesn't have to be all of it, has feathers and no more fluff. I've even put them out with their head not fully feathered out, but their wings and think about where their vital organs would be, outside of their brain, would be covered. This seems to be a good rule of thumb for us. So once they get to that place, we move them outside. And that's going to be a different video when I show you how to transition them from inside to outside and how to introduce them to your current flock if you have one. But in any case, that's for another time. I really hope this has helped you. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. And until then, if you wouldn't mind hitting a like and a subscribe, looking forward to seeing you again.